Vayikra 13:46. Leviticus. Vayikra. If you can't establish hell from the Torah, I don't want to hear what the Brit Chadashah has to say, because everything the Brit Chadashah says must be an illumination of what is already written in the Torah. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Vayikra 13:46. Leviticus 13:46. This is the cleansing of the lepers. The Gavara, the lepers. And we see in verse 46, let's read. All the days in which the plague shall be in him, meaning he is a leper, has leprosy, he will be defiled. He is unclean. He shall dwell alone. Outside the camp shall his dwelling be. Circle those words. Outside the camp shall his dwelling be. Look at me. We know the wilderness tabernacle and later Shlomo's temple, his Beit HaMikdash, was a type or a picture or pattern after the actual one in heaven. Yes? Yes?
Yes.
Now, everything done on the earth, verse 46, you see here in verse 46, when a person had leprosy, which we know spiritually speaking, what is leprosy? A type of uncleanness, a type of sinfulness, a type of transgression, is a type of the unclean sinner before Yahweh. Would everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Pretty simple? Okay. How did Yahweh deal with the leper? Or the sinner? Again, leprosy is a type or a picture of a sinner without Yahweh, a lawbreaker, a Torah breaker, separated from Yahweh. We know that the heavenly Yerushalayim is the template. What does template mean? The original from which the earthly tabernacle and camp and behavior was pitched. So we see that in the eternal terms, leper or sinners, lepers or sinners, will be separated from Yahweh's camp, his presence. This and other scriptures that I'm going to get to in a second proves, don't miss this now, that spiritual lepers or sinners will not dwell with Yahweh in his camp, but apart from Yahweh and apart from an existence with our life giver, and an existence apart from the life giver is death, hatred, torment, darkness, and eventually annihilation. Did you get that? Most of you didn't understand the word I said. When you understand the concept of isolation, and you realize that Yahweh would never tell Moshe to do something on the earth that Yahweh was not doing to sinners or the unclean or the ungodly or the unrighteous in the heavens, then you understand that what these types and pictures are portraying is an eternity outside of the camp of Yahweh for lepers or for sinners. Make sense? Every sinner, every spiritually unpurified individual who has not been washed in the blood of Yeshua will be separated from the camp. And what happened to lepers? Not only were they separated from the camp, they were literally quarantined from the camp. What does it mean to be quarantined? Completely outside of never to return. Now you say, wait a second, but if you read Leviticus 13, and then you read Vayikra chapter 14, there are all kinds of ceremonies with which the leper is cleansed and with which the leper can return. This is true. However, the fact remains, listen, that leprosy was the AIDS of ancient biblical times. That was like AIDS is today. Everybody knew how to deal with it, but nobody knew how to cure it. How do we deal with AIDS today? AZT, BTT, popping pills, we call Magic Johnson for advice. Not trying to make light of it, but we just try to cope with it. We just try to find ways to cope with it. But we don't know how to cure it. There is no cure for AIDS. Would you agree with that? And neither was there a cure in ancient Israel for leprosy. So when it goes through all the process of how a leper can become clean and come back in the camp, then you have to ask yourself the question. If all these laws exist for the leper to return and be clean and be whole and be washed and be redeemed, pure before Yahweh, then, and they would come back in the camp, and yet we know that it was an incurable disease. Do you get the dichotomy here? Do you get the problem? Yahweh says, I want you to come back in the camp, but the fact remains, leprosy cannot be cured. You see the problem? Baruch Hashem Yahweh. So Yahweh is showing that a life or an existence away from the camp is death, eventual annihilation, torment. It is a torment to be away from the living Yahweh. These lepers were tormented. They could not see their brother, they could not see their sister, they could not see their cousin, they could not see their uncle. They were tormented because they had no interaction with the living Yahweh or with the people of Yahweh. And where did Yahweh get all this stuff? From the pattern, from the template that he designed the earthly tabernacle and the earthly camp. So I'm trying to show you the concept and the doctrine of hell. If you don't understand this, don't bother preaching the gospel, because then you can't prove there's a hell. You've got to be able to prove from the Torah so you can avoid these traps and avoid these pitfalls and avoid the doctrine that tells you that Christianity invented hell and that hell didn't exist before Yeshua showed up. Because after all, a loving Yahweh would never send people to hell. And even if there was a hell, most won't go there because Yahweh loves everybody. They get 100 chances. Even if there was a hell. But the point is that we had these procedures. Are you with me? I know this is not exciting, but this is crucial for us to have an evangelistic zeal to go out into the nations. Amen. Because if we don't understand there's a hell, we have no need to go out and win the lost. Most lepers were never cleansed. Until a man named Yeshua showed up. Hello? That was never heard or seen in Israel. When you stayed away, you were separated from the cradle to the tomb. You were separated from Yahweh's presence. And so it will be in the spirit realm. Did I just show you two ways to see hell? The ground opened up and swallowed Korach alive and all his house and all his belongings. The earth opened them up and they went down into the middle of the earth and they were alive. It didn't say they died. It didn't say they passed away. It says they were alive. Meaning the people who are separated from Yahweh, who go to perdition, they go down initially alive, conscious, awake. Luke 16 will tell you that. Luke 16 will tell you that. Spurgeon said if you can't talk about hell and damnation and the perdition of the lost, those who refuse to trust in the Besorah, with tears in your eyes and a broken heart, he said, you are not called of the Father. Good old C.A. Spurgeon. So whenever we read and we study the separation of the leper from the camp of the righteous of Israel, where Yahweh dwells. Where did Yahweh live in the Torah? Am I bothering you?
No. Come on.
Where did Yahweh live in the Torah? Right there, Ted. Point to it, please. In the Ohel Moed, in the tent of meeting. Where did Yahweh live when Shlomo built him a house? Even though Yahweh kind of chided him. Well, where is my throne? Where is my footstool? What house are you going to build me, Bubba? He was just trying to set him straight. What house are you going to build me, man? You know, realize that you can't contain me. But he dwelt in the camp. So all these things out of the camp. Miriam rebelled against Yahweh, out of the camp. But fortunately, for most cases, being put outside the camp was a temporary form of what? Discipline. We throw people out of this congregation, not to punish them, but so they can be restored and come to their senses. That doesn't always happen because they're not always humble and they're not always teachable. And they hold a grudge. The whole point of putting people outside the camp is to restore them with a different heart and a different attitude.
Okay.
Make sense? Baruch Hashem Yahweh. We had a brother who got up here a few weeks ago. He left the camp, but he came back with a different heart and a different attitude. Not everybody's like that. So what Yahweh is teaching us about the principle of separation from the heavenly camp, the heavenly tabernacle, where Yahweh lives in holiness and righteousness, and He is teaching us